So welcome everybody to the Chronicles of Corona, chapter 16. So we started these Chronicles 16 weeks ago as we entered into the pandemic, and it was inspired by the Chronicles of Narnia. The idea that we're in this new and foreign land. We're in this land together, but all in different places in the land. So in this chapter of the Chronicles, I have the great honor to present to you the pastor and Reverend Walter Kendricks of Morning Star Missional Baptist Church here in Spokane. So welcome, Pastor Kendricks.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. Now, as I was telling you earlier, in the Chronicles of Corona, like in the Chronicles of Narnia, people get to have a heroic name. So just before we started recording, you chose a heroic name. Want to let people know what that name is and why you chose it?
Yes, my name is, I'm playing the role of Anslin, the messenger of Christ, a messenger from God, messenger to Narnia. You know what I mean. Anyway,
Narnia.
Narnia. Yeah, there you go. That's who I am. The messenger. Yes.
The lion. That's great.
Or the lion. Okay. All right.
Yeah, the lion, the messenger, all good.
Yes.
So tell us, how is life in your part of the land of Corona?
Life in my part of the land of Corona, if at all possible, which I didn't think possible. I'm busier now than I was before COVID-19 hit. Trying to tend to the members of the flock, trying to tend to members of the community. And then, of course, we have that intersection of our response to COVID-19, along with the killings of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. So we have that intersection of trying to keep the peace, but yet expressing my anger and outrage too. But yet and still at the same time trying to tend to the members of the flock, because no matter what else happens, my primary responsibility is Morning Star, the people of Morning Star that God has entrusted to my care. And so I've been extremely busy, to answer the question, extremely busy, very thankful in the same respect that no one in the church family, we have not suffered loss. We have not suffered a loss within the church family. We did have a member that was a personal friend of mine. He just passed away a few days ago, so I've been tending to his family. But no losses due to COVID-19. But of course, a lot of problems associated with COVID-19. Food security, it's not really that big of an issue because so many other entities are giving out food. However, not a lot of entities are trying to help people with rent payments and transportation, medicine, so forth and so on. So that's been difficult. But long story short, with the intersection of all these events, I've been busy.
Yeah, and grieving a friend too.
We called him Tori. As a matter of fact, real quick, he got an infection at Holy Family. Oh, that was 3 years ago, because I didn't have a car then. And I remember from where I live up north here in North Spokane, I would catch the bus every day down to a Holy Family to see him because he was in a coma. He didn't even know I was there. But I went to see about him, so forth and so on. I used to tell the church, too, which was a fascinating story. I tell the church that one day Tori was going to walk back in there and we all were going to shout. And sure enough, it took like 2 years, but he came walking back up in there one day and people falling out in the aisles, praising God, crying, laughing, shouting. So, yeah, it was a pleasure to be able to minister to him, even though he's gone now.
So are you involved with his funeral, or how is that going in COVID?
Very difficult. Good question. His family, I guess the best way to say it is they're still dealing with the initial shock of losing him. He wasn't married. He was like 43, I think it was. And so, his family's, they're just dealing with the shock, and we're trying to figure out how to do the funeral. He wasn't he never left. He never pulled his membership from Morningstar, but he was attending another church, Cornerstone. I think that was the name of it. But so we're trying to work out the logistics, the details, and whatnot. But yeah, I've been ministering to his family as best I can. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough situation. I mean, real tough. But you know what? It don't get this wrong. He's just one person and one story with many facets to his story of life. But my goodness, where are we? 125, 130,000 people have lost their lives. And that's 130,000. It's not just them. It's their families. It's their friends. It's their churches. It's their social groups. COVID has affected all of us in one way or another.
Yeah. And even worse for our Black community.
Yeah. I believe in science. And so I know that at some point in time, people smarter than I will be able to figure out why it disproportionately hits the African-American community. Just a fascinating tale. It's like, what is it? Is it in our genetic makeup? Is it because we don't have access to health care? Is it because of our previous history before COVID hit? Because healthcare is so expensive. And I would bet you that the disproportionality of Black people due to COVID, if this makes sense, is directly related to the quality of and to our access of healthcare before COVID. I would, I'm sure of that without the data to back it up. But anyway, yeah.
All of the above. I bet it's all of the above. It's the lack of access. It's the high rate of poverty, the bigotry and systemic racism, even within the medical text to this day.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, you know what's sad about this COVID crisis, as you mentioned, racial disparities and so forth and so on, systematic racism. There are still some people that will deny that there is systematic racism in this great country of ours. And very disappointing. I saw a senator from South Carolina. I won't even mention his name, but he's saying that, and he's putting forth or positing the thought that there is not systematic racism contained within our institutions.
Mm-hmm.
And and I just, it's like, wow, man, wow.
Does he also believe the earth is flat? There's a strong movement of people who believe the earth is flat. And I had a phone call of a person who had seen something on our sign out in front of the church and called me and thanked me because it had to do with questioning, that we need to use our mind. And he said because he has come to the conclusion that the earth is flat and there's a great movement. And I laughed at him, Pastor. I was like, this had to be a prank call.
Yeah.
And I had to pull it back because I had laughed at him. But I wonder, is this not also with some people with systemic racism, that they're like flat earthers, that they are just gonna believe, they're so far in denial, in whatever that is, that we just have to go, aren't you silly? And then we're gonna go on and fix this, or at least try.
Well, I've been having, which again has contributed to my busyness, I've been having conversations with, I will call them right and even far right of center pastors. Even people from Stevens County have come down on a couple of occasions to visit and to chat with me and some other African-American pastors. And it's very hard to get people to understand those things that they've never experienced. So if you've never experienced mistreatment or being treated different, due to the color of your skin, you wouldn't recognize it. And it's a fascinating conversations I've been having. It's sad. In many respects, it's sad. But I will say that those conversations have brought about some fruit, because some things that they were not aware of, they have now been made aware of. Now the question is, what are you going to do? Some of them, we were debating whether or not you wear a mask. And I told them in some respects, the wearing of a mask, you've turned into a political statement, and you can delineate whether a person is Democratic or liberal, conservative, Republican by whether or not they wear a mask. And back to what you were saying, Pastor, how silly is that you continue to believe that the earth is flat, and it has been proven time and time again that it's not. And then, which of course, finally on that thing, it's making me think of science, and how religion and science intersect. But God himself says in the Old Testament, he says, come now, let us reason together. Let us reason. Come. Let us reason together. Of course, hopefully I'm not taking it too far out of context. But in other words, it's like, come, let's talk about this. And we can't even, some people are so steadfast in their belief system that there's no room for discussion. And it's like, wow. So.
Yeah. If a belief is challenged, their whole world starts to crumble.
Yeah, and you would, some people smarter than me are going to have to enlighten me on why that is. That just because your belief is challenged, and just because your belief is challenged, and even if it's proven to be wrong, and even if you've been proven to be wrong, there's nothing wrong with being wrong. It's like what I think the problem is, if you know you are wrong and you continue down the path of your wrongness. Somebody told me, if that makes sense, somebody once told me the very first thing you have to do if you're lost in the woods, the very first thing you have to do is admit that you're lost. Mm-hmm. Admit that you're lost, and then you can begin to find your way. Same thing with this great United States of America. It's okay. We can't do anything about what happened over the past 400 years. Can't do anything about it. But we can say, yeah, we were wrong, and now let's turn. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. That's repentance. Turn around.
That's turn. Look at it in a different way. It's like, yeah, I think I was wrong here. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is it that you've got so many ministries? I tell my friends, I know this pastor who's doing the work of 7 pastors.
You're funny. Go ahead.
So what is it you most need from the community? You're always giving out to the community. If there's anybody who is watching this or listening right now, how can they most be of help? Be it with helping Morning Star, or helping you with Spokane Community Against Racism, or any of the Pastors Fellowship. You're doing so many different things. Where is it that people can most help support you to do this work?
Right within their local circle, right within their family, right within their group. I'm a firm believer in that God has endowed all of us, unless we're mentally, if there's something wrong, we know the difference between right and wrong. And people everywhere of all, races, types, genders, sexual preferences, economics, whatever, everybody knew what happened to George Floyd is wrong. Everybody knew that. And then as we build upon that, and we start to look at the causes, the reasons why, how could another human being treat another human being like that? As we delve into it and we start peeling back the levels, again, as we were talking about reasoning together, you come to the conclusion that, hey, we've been doing some things wrong. Our systems have not been exactly fair, and so forth and so on. And so then as we take it another level, okay, then now that we know that something has been wrong, what do we do? Well, we confront those within our circle. You know, there's so many conversations that I'd love to be a part of around the family dinner table at whatever time families eat, as they talk about these things. Everybody knows, well, better yet, there's right of center people in every family, and to challenge and to um, um, cajole, to compel, to argue, or whatever it is, whatever term you want to use, with right within your circle. You know, off-color jokes, looking down on people, all those things. Deal with that right in your group, and you would be surprised the impact that you would have. However, that takes courage, because all of us like to be liked. All of us like to, you know, interact with it, and we want to be accepted. And sometimes when you stand for truth, a lot of people don't want to hear the truth. And, you know, you stand at risk of losing some friends, some people close to you. But the way I look at it is, you know what, if we can't stand up for one another's basic humanity, and if you get mad for me just because I say the Jewish man or the Arab man or the African man or the Canadian woman or whatever, the transgender, whatever it is, if you can't recognize their right to live and to exist and to be, I don't need you as a friend anyway. Does that make sense? Yeah, I've stumbled on a document, and I've been looking at it quite a bit, and I transpose it and take pieces out. But I was down at the rally, SCAR, a couple weeks ago, and I've been really looking at the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. I've been really looking at that, just reading it over and over, and it says, "We the people." Doesn't say we the House of Representatives. It doesn't say we the Senate. It doesn't say me or I the president. It doesn't say the Supreme Court. It doesn't say the legislature. Of course, all those things are going to be developed. It says we the people. And so to affect change, deal with those people in your circle. That's what I would say. That's how they can be of most help. And also become active. Get out there, join an organization, join whatever whatever it is, the NAACP, SCAR, PJALS, Greater Spokane Progress, whatever organization. Get out there, get up off the couch, you know, expand your horizons. That's what I would say, to answer your question. That's what I'd say.
Great suggestions, especially because actually, if you join NAACP, it's easier than talking to the people in your family, right? The hardest one is to interrupt. My grandfather had a saying, and it would be, "So you think so?" He'd interrupt something with, especially if he disagreed.
Sure.
But he wouldn't say, I think. He'd just interrupt what someone was saying.
Sure.
"So you think so?" And sometimes it had different inflections. "Oh, so you think so?" To find that way to interrupt, to make the other person, to shine a mirror somehow.
Sure. Yeah.
People
I've got a friend that I won't tell you his name. I don't want to do that to him, but he's far, far right of center. And we have coffee all the time. He came down to the church a while ago, and we were sitting outside just talking, and he was angry with me because he had saw me on television with the mayor and the chief of police and some other people as we were discussing the aftermath of the marches and so forth, or the initial march, and what we could do here in Spokane. And he said, "I was very disappointed in you. I just can't believe you brought forth some of your ideas." And I said, "Bill, why would you be disappointed in me? Because I'm not disappointed in you. You say what you say, you think what you think, and I accept it. I ain't trying to change your mind. Not trying to change your mind, not arguing with you, but you should at least give me the same leeway to say what I think. Of course, I see things differently than you because you're not me and I'm not you. But my points are very valid. And this individual believes that Black people have never been mistreated in this country.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Oh,
Never.
never, never. And he believes that they've had access to all the things that he has. It's just unbelievable, the echo chamber that some people live in. They hear nothing but what they choose to hear, and any penetration, as you were saying, Pastor, of ideas or of thoughts or being challenged, it's like, oh no, that's not true, and they shut themselves off to what reality is. Yeah, it's fascinating. Anyway.
Yeah, interrupts the comfort, doesn't it?
And Pastor, that's a very good point. As I'm dealing in times of Corona and living in times of Corona, a lot of people's comfort level has been taken away, and they're feeling very, very uncomfortable. Which, funny thing about Black people, if I may say, and I say it respectfully, we never had anything anyway. We didn't have, we've never had all of the advantages. Not every Black person, but access to education and healthcare and things that a lot of people take for granted. We've never had that, and those things that we have attained, we've had to fight for.
Mm-hmm.
People, how do they think the historical Black colleges came into being?
Right.
Because we couldn't get into Brown, Harvard, Princeton, Yale. So we created Spelman, Morehouse, Jackson State, and and it's I guess it's just in dealing with the Corona, I figured out what's really important to people, and I see it all the time, and it's very sad as far as a pastor goes, because people have made their choice, and their God is money. That's who their God is. And I always have this thought in my head. That's another thing I can't get out of my head, along with we the people. But I hear the words of somebody saying somewhere, so what shall a man give in exchange for his soul?
Yes. Go on.
What will a man give? What does it profit a man to gain the whole world, lose your soul? Or what will a man give in exchange? Yeah. And it's like, wow, I ain't wearing no mask. It's my right. Yeah, open up the economy. At what cost? Yeah. What, 100,000 people? Does that accept 200,000? 3 or 4 members of your family? What at what cost? So, anyway, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, as our time comes to a close, I know you had a birthday recently.
Yes.
So, how does it feel as a Black man? You've made it to another year.
I thank God. It's a marvelous thing to see another year. I was just talking with somebody about that. I was down at the church today, and we were talking about life and death issues, really. And I said to her, I said, people that leave from here, transition during this time, they might be the lucky ones. They might have the better deal. It depends on how one sees our mortality and our spirit. Paul said that quite often. It's better for me to go be with the Lord, but for your sakes, I'll stay here. Mm-hmm. It feels good to answer your question. It feels good to have another year, and looking forward to another one to continue on the journey with nice people like yourself. Yeah.
Well, we need you here. So your work's not done, Aslan. Your work's not done.
I'm a messenger from the Lord. Thus saith the Lord. My favorite words. Thus saith the Lord.
All right.
Do what you want to do with it. Yeah.
Well, that's a great place to end. So that was the pastor of Morning Star Baptist, Reverend Walter Kendricks. So glad to have him with us. And we'll see you next week on the Chronicles of Corona as we continue this journey through this experience of the pandemic, of COVID and racism and inequalities of every kind. For this virus has exposed that. So until next time, goodbye.